Hello and welcome to the Everything is Black and White podcast live on the Chronicle Facebook page, YouTube and Twitter account, and later on our podcast channel. I'm Andrew Musgrove and I'm joined by West Ham reporter Tom Clark from Football London. Tom, thank you for popping onto the pod.
Oh, absolute pleasure. Lovely to chat with you.
It's going to be an interesting game tomorrow. Obviously, Newcastle travel down to West Ham. Given the current weather situation, it's going to be interesting to see if they arrive down as they're meant to. Eddie Howe's already spoken about they're flying down, but they are prepared to travel by coach. He said training has been interrupted slightly by the high winds, but thankfully it looks like there's nothing too serious going on and they'll get down there. On the pitch, it's going to be a difficult game for Newcastle. How are West Ham approaching this one?
Well, just going to the weather first. It is, obviously, I'm down here in Essex, not too far from the stadium, and it is very, very blowy. And the way the stadium is here, it's such a big bowl that it could have an effect. Actually, it really could, like on the game. Because I'm heading off to the training ground after this to do the press conference, and I imagine West Ham's training's been affected this week because it's pretty horrible out there today. So I think that might actually, it's not rugby. There's not going to be all the high balls coming in, but it will make a difference, I think. West Ham going into this game, the form's been a bit dodgy, to be honest. Recently, this year they've had a couple of wins, but it was a narrow 1-0 win over Watford. And the draw with Leicester came in injury time. Obviously, the win against Kidderminster Harriers was the second team playing, but they had to call on the big boys and Declan Rice and Jared Bowen to get them the win. So it might be a good time for Newcastle to be playing West Ham because they just haven't found their groove really recently. So they're still up in fifth place after Man United's midweek result, but they're not playing as well as they were. That's for sure.
Yeah, and I'm a big fan of what West Ham have done in recent years, trying to break into that top four, break up the party of the big six. And I think they're a good side to watch. And Newcastle will have to be on their game to beat West Ham. What is the reason, do you think, recently that West Ham's form has dropped off slightly?
I think tiredness, to be honest. They've played so many games with all the Europa League. They've done well in the Carabao Cup as well, and don't have a huge squad. So they've not really. There's not been a huge amount of rotation. You can look at the decision to keep playing Kurt Zouma, one or two ways. One, just because David Moyes thought it was the right thing to do, but also maybe he didn't trust Issa Diop in that game against Watford and lack of rotation. And actually, to be fair to Diop, he came in against Leicester and he had a superb game. So but that was off the back of having an absolute shocker against Kidderminster Harriers. It's a very good starting 11 with maybe a 12th or 13th player off the bench, but there's no real strength in depth. Like you look at the two fullbacks last week, Creswell and Soufal, who had absolute shockers against Leicester. Creswell was an awful game, gave away a ridiculous penalty, and then was just had a really, really bad game, was at fault for the second goal as well. And Soufal had a decent first half, and then Harvey Barnes just had the better of him, and Moyes had to take him off, and he brought on Ryan Fredericks, just pure pace. But you just can't see anything other than the two of them starting again tomorrow, even though they're two good players and they're trusted players, so you can understand why he sticks with them. But there also just aren't those great options. Souček and Rice play week in, week out as you expect them to do, but they don't have competition for their places. Mikel Antonio just had he scored one in, I can't even remember how many games now, and there were no other options other than to maybe put Bowen through the middle, but then that takes away from his game, which his best position is coming in on the right. And he's the one guy, well, him and Rice, Rice is just always brilliant, but Bowen is the other one who's stepped up recently. And Fornell's 1 goal in 17. But there aren't options. You've got Fornell's, Bowen, Lanzini, and Ben Rama. 4 players for 3 positions, and it seems whoever comes in, there's always seems to be one of the 3 of them not in, or one of the 4 not, or the 3 starters, who are not in form, and so it's just options, I think, and tiredness. It's beginning to catch up with them. The winter break, I think, probably did help, and they're just hoping to find their groove again.
You mentioned there the fullbacks. Obviously, Newcastle have the threat of Alan St-Maximin on one side, and Ryan Fraser's found his feet finally at Newcastle and looking like the player he was under Eddie Howe at Bournemouth. How are West Ham going to handle them two? Because over the past few weeks, there's been plenty of praise for the likes of Joe Linton, Kieran Trippier, who obviously is missing. And Alan St-Maximin always gets the plaudits, but Ryan Fraser, for me, is the one who's gone under the radar a little bit, and he's been in absolute great form. And have both of them on either side, it's going to be a tough test for West Ham.
Yeah, it will. And the two fullbacks, as I said, they didn't play well last weekend. They are, experienced professionals. They've both, Soufal's played numerous international matches. Creswell's obviously been capped by England as well. Like they're good, experienced players. One poor performance won't be the end of them for sure. I mean, you do have options with extra pace in Fredericks and Johnson to come in, but I think Moyes will stick with his two trusted players. As I say, one bad game. I think it's the first time I can remember Soufal being taken off. Actually, he's been a solid player, and he's a very good defender. So I think he will stick with them. But yeah, like you say, St. Maximin will be a worry, and that pace of Fraser as well. That will be an issue. So maybe the fullbacks will have to just sit a little deeper rather than push forward as much as they want to. But I think that could be the key, because you just imagine that Rice and Souček are going to dominate the centre of the pitch. I mean, that's just what happens in pretty much all West Ham games with Declan Rice. He just seems to run the centre of the pitch for take away Man City, Chelsea type of thing. But other than that, he just seems to boss every game. So yeah, I think Newcastle will be looking in to get behind the fullbacks and run at them. And Trippier obviously is a huge miss for Newcastle. Certainly the West Ham fans were pleased to see that news coming in earlier in the week, with his form, but not just that, his leadership and the work. He just seems to have come in. I mean, you'll know this better than me, but he just seems to have come in and made a huge difference this one. I mean, he's a fantastic footballer. He's a brilliant signing for Newcastle. He had a very sensible transfer window, and he is, he's a proven Premier League player, international player, and will be a big loss. But I think that's a real bonus for West Ham, unexpected bonus.
Yeah, it's a huge bonus. And we've got John Steele here, Newcastle United fan, asking any early team news and who would play right back. So it has been Andy Howe's press conference this morning. He has confirmed that he thinks Manquillo will be missing out. He obviously went off in the game against Aston Villa with an ankle injury. They said they feared it might be ligament damage. It doesn't appear to be that bad, but it doesn't appear he'll be in the starting lineup against West Ham. And many people would have said Manquillo will be the man to replace Kieran Trippier. As it is, it looks like it'll be Emil Kraft, who has gone up a level under Eddie Howe, but he's not the best of right backs. He's certainly not the quality of Kieran Trippier. That being said, he came on, he put in an all right shift against Aston Villa, and it's always a difficult situation to come into when you are, replacing the man that the fans absolutely love, who's brought quality leadership to Newcastle United. And you just have to hope that this week they've been working on him in training and trying to boost his confidence, because I do think it'll be a confidence thing with Kraft. I think he's more than competent at right back. He's a Swedish international. It's just whether he believes himself he can step up and replace Kieran Trippier. So that's going to be interesting. You mentioned there the midfield, Declan Rice, obviously the man that always gets applauded for West Ham. Newcastle themselves have had a brilliant run of games with the three midfielders they've got at the moment: John Joe Shelby, Joe Linton, Joe Willock, meaning their £14 million man, Bruno, has been on the bench for the last 3 games, and it looks likely he'll probably be on the bench again this weekend. I'm really intrigued to see how Joe Linton does against Declan Rice, if that is the way it measures up in the middle of the park, because Joe Linton in recent months it's just been a transformation like I don't think we've ever seen before. He's gone from a striker who couldn't find the back of the net to this midfielder who nearly every opposition that plays against him gets done by him, essentially. So it's going to be interesting to see how he handles West Ham stars.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I run out of superlatives. Honestly, we do these talking points every week, and every week I try and stop myself from writing, well, Declan Rice is good, isn't he? Because he is just a phenomenal footballer. And before I got this job, I'd seen him play, bits and bobs on TV, and I'd seen him play for England, and knew he was a good player. Didn't realise how good until I saw him live, and then you see him week in, week out, and you realise, okay, this boy is, he's not just good, he is special. And if he does leave West Ham, if or when he leaves, he will be irreplaceable for them. He's added to his game this season as well. He's not just this sitting defensive midfielder. He is a box-to-box player. He really is, and he's adding that to his game. The way you talk about the Newcastle 3. Then that one thing they'll have to be aware of is how well he picks up the ball on the turn, and he just he's got this massive stride, and he's faster than you think he is, and he will just drive up that pitch, and he will turn defense into attack, and he always wants the ball, and it doesn't matter if there's pressure on him. He can pick a pass. He's got a lovely long pass. He's got great run. It's kind of been his trademark this season, is running up the inside left channel, like getting the ball and driving up there, and then maybe laying it off to Ben Rama or Fornals or Creswell on the overlap, or coming inside and spraying it wide to the right wing to Bowen to cut inside, and he just runs the game for West Ham. He's always on the ball, and you see the stats after the game of possession, of passes completed, and he rarely misses one. And his heat map is just everywhere, and it's taken a little bit away from Souček's game this season with this attacking element that Rice has. Souček has to not cover for him, but he just can't push forward quite as much as he did before. And I'm expecting tomorrow that Lanzini will play in that number 10 role, and he drops in and makes a 3 with them as well. And I think that will be a really interesting matchup. It is one I expect West Ham to get the better of, just purely because Declan Rice is the difference there.
How do you stop someone like Declan Rice? I mean, you mentioned there, other than the Man City game, he's kind of dominated, in your opinion, pretty much every other game. I mean, how do you stop him? Is it you've got to try and rattle him early on, or does he kind of welcome that challenge anyway? What's the secret?
Keep possession away from him, to be honest. Just, that's why the Man City and Chelsea always do very well against them. And Chelsea really, they're not the most, I don't find them the most interesting of teams to watch when they play West Ham, but you've got to appreciate how well they keep the ball. And Manchester City was the same. We were up at the Etihad at the back end of last year, and it was just a masterclass in possession. And I really enjoyed watching Man City play. I love watching Kevin De Bruyne, but it was, you're sitting there watching it, and they were 1-0 up, and it's just like West Ham never ever looked like getting back into this game. And then there was a 90th minute goal from Fernandinho to make it 2-0, and then Lanzini pops up with an absolute wonder goal in injury time to make it 2-1. But it was a 2-1 game that was, it was 2-1. There was one goal in it. There was just miles between the two sides, and that's it. If he's on the ball, he makes things happen. It's just trying to keep the ball away from him, and Souček doesn't have the drive, doesn't have the passing ability that Rice does. So maybe if you crowd Rice, but I don't think many teams have found how to stop him really. So I'm probably not. Maybe need to speak to Guardiola about that rather than me.
We've got Roger here asking about Joe Linton and will he be able to nullify Rice's threat. I mean, like I said, that is the battle I'm really interested by. I mean, Joe Linton, he's a bit of a powerhouse at the moment and he's all over the pitch. So I do think that might be the battle, the one to watch. He's asking, should we bring Bruno in? I think Bruno, as I said, will be on the bench. I don't see how you can drop Joe Linton, Willock or Shelby. They've been brilliant in recent weeks. We saw against Everton, the more dominant performance we saw against Villa. Everyone had to kind of dig in. So we've seen two sides of this Newcastle team under Eddie Howe, and it's going to be interesting to see how they set up against West Ham. But I can't see, as crazy as it sounds, I can't see Newcastle's big money January Brazilian international starting on Saturday for the fourth game in a row that'll be on the bench. But what a nice dilemma to have from a Newcastle point of view. Lots of comments, Tom, about Bowen. Obviously, he was heavily linked to Newcastle before he ended up at West Ham. He's been unbelievable this season. Again, the question is, how will Newcastle stop someone form is one thing, but he's clearly just a very talented player.
Yeah, he is. I mean, his form has been fantastic. Like this season, he's taken his game to a new level, and it's 7-7 for him now, and he's just flying. And it's been all kinds of goals. The one against Kidderminster was just a tap in, like a strike. He's not a striker. He said his preferred position is on the right. He sees himself as an attacker, but not a central striker. But that was a tap in the last minute. Then the goal against Leicester, fantastically timed run, beautiful ball over the top from Issa Diop, and it was a great finish on his left foot into the far corner. And he's just a man full of confidence. Stopping him, he's the nickname he's got with a lot of West Ham fans is Iron Bowen, because he starts on the right, cuts inside on his left foot, but he's not quite the same as Robin, obviously, who is just a phenomenal player. But he has that he has that speed, he has that ability to cut inside on his left foot, but he's also just popping up with all kinds of goals now. He is a hard man to stop. He is a man on fire, and fully expect him to be in the next England squad. He should be anyway. You look at players in his position and you look at their form. If the squad's being picked on form, then you expect him to be there. He's 25. He's absolutely flying. And Moyes said in January, there's no better replacement for Mikel Antonio than Bowen. But I just don't see that when he does play through the middle. I just think it takes away from his game, because he's not a target man. He doesn't hold the ball up. He gets in behind, and he's best. He gets assists as well. He's got 20 goal involvements this season, 12 goals, 8 assists in all competition. So there's more than just goal scoring. And a fantastic footballer who's absolutely flying. And whoever's up against him on the left for Newcastle is going to be on for a very tough afternoon. But the centre backs, on the other hand, might have it slightly easier because Mikel Antonio is really struggling.
Yeah, so I think it'll be Matt Targett. He couldn't play against Aston Villa because it was his parent club. Right. His debut against Everton, he was brilliant. Really looked good. Really looked assured, which Newcastle have missed in recent years in that position. So I think it'll be Bowen versus Targett, and then you have in the centre. I think it'll be Dan Burn and Jamal Lascelles. Jamal Lascelles missed out against Aston Villa through illness. A lot of people don't think he's good enough to be in that starting 11, but I don't think Eddie Howe will drop his captain. I think that's a massive call when you're in the middle of a relegation battle. I know a lot of people disagree with that. You mentioned there, Antonio. I mean, Newcastle are a team full of confidence. Yes, they've lost Trippier, which is a big blow, but the confidence and the momentum's still there. 3 wins on the bounce. They were unbeaten in the league in 2022. Is that in contrast to West Ham, where confidence maybe isn't as high?
I think, I'm not sure it's confidence. They're because they are grinding out results anyway. It has been a bit of a grind, last minute. As I say, in the last 3 games, it's 1-0 v Watford with a deflected goal from Bowen, and then the other 2 were last minute winners against. So Kidderminster and Leicester was a last minute equaliser. I don't think confidence will be an issue. I think Moyes has them as a confident squad. It's just not quite clicking, and actually going to be interesting speaking to the manager this afternoon to find out why, because you can't really put your finger on it right now, and it's it doesn't help that Antonio isn't getting the goals, but then Bowen has stepped up with that. Craig Dawson has come in, and he was an odd signing when he joined the club 18 months ago, but 2.5 million, very, very well spent. Didn't quite meet that corner. He called it a training ground routine. I'm pretty sure he didn't mean to shoulder it in, but you mentioned Dan Burn coming in. There could be big things. West Ham it's one thing they're very good at, is that when they've been struggling, they do pop up with set piece goals. And it was surprisingly, that was Dawson's first Premier League goal. He scored a couple in the Europa League. Diop's, all the back 4 have the 4 centre backs have all scored from set pieces, and so you have Souček and Rice, who are both 6'2" plus. So that could be, and it's something that I watched the goal v Leicester in very detailed on repeat in slow mo just to see, and it was Diop and Antonio were on the keeper and occupying 2 of their 3 centre backs, and it left Dawson 1-on-1 with Amati, and he just backed Dawson 1-on-1 with most players, and he ended up beating him and Vestergaard to the ball. He had a 10-yard run on Vestergaard, who had no chance on that, but the way he just shrugged off Amati, it was a shoulder, top of his arm, wasn't a great finish, but it's just that desire to get there, and it's something that West Ham do rely on. I don't think there's anything wrong with scoring from set pieces. England got to the World Cup semi-finals, with a lot of goals from set pieces. There's nothing wrong with it. It's a perfectly legitimate goal. If you're not getting them from open play, why not concentrate on them when you've got superb delivery from Creswell, from Bowen? It's probably one of the reasons why Creswell came off last weekend instead of Soufal, because he still had the set piece delivery. But yeah, confidence-wise, no, I think Moyes has got them as a confident squad. They're going, they're still in 3 competitions. They're really looking forward to the Europa League coming back next month. So I think they just need one good performance and things will click back in for them.
Do you think they look at this game, West Ham, David Moyes, West Ham fans will look at this game and think we should be beating Newcastle? Yeah, they've won 3 games, but they're still right in the middle of a relegation fight. Is this a game where you think West Ham are the favourites?
On paper, yes, it's a home game against a side who are in a relegation battle, but we all know Newcastle are a different team, since the turn of the year, with all the signings come in, with the new manager, with the form. I was doing my predicted, until the international break, so until the end of March, and West Ham have got Spurs, they got Liverpool, got Wolves, Newcastle, and Villa, and you look at that 5 games, and as if you're being realistic, you look at cases like, well, you probably want to be beating Newcastle and Villa at home. You take a draw with Spurs, you take a draw with Wolves, and you get anything from Liverpool, that's an added bonus. But I was looking at it thinking 8 points would be a really good return from that. 2 wins, 2 draws. But I think, West Ham have to target a home match against a team in the bottom half of the table for 3 points. But looking at the form guide, a draw would be an acceptable result.
Yeah, well, for Newcastle, fingers crossed they get a win. Roger asks, I said about Lascelles at centre-back, is he better defending set pieces than Shaw? Arguably not, but then I don't think Shaw's any better either. I think that is the weak link. Dan Burn is instantly coming in and move things up a level. And by less, I think the Lascelles will start simply because he's captain. I think Eddie Howe will give him a bit more of a chance to prove himself. And he looked good against Everton as well. I thought it was one of his best games this season. It's just a shame he missed Villa through illness.
So what you're saying is put a pound on West Ham to score from a set piece inside 90 minutes then?
Yes. Just before I ask you your score prediction, are there any absentees from that West Ham side? I mean, everyone's going to be wondering about Zuma. You know, he was ill. He fell out of the warm-up in the last game against Leicester. Do you expect him to be back with everything that's been going on?
Yeah, and Moyes has said he's not going to drop him because of the cat incident, which obviously is a horrible thing, and something we've covered to death in the last couple of weeks or so. I don't agree with that. I think, well, maybe he would have come back for now. I thought he should have been suspended for the game against Watford, pending an investigation. I think that would have been the best way to go. I think it would also have been the best way to go with the PR for West Ham. They've handled it pretty poorly, to be honest. But he was in the team against Watford. He was in the team until 20 minutes before kickoff. And I expect him to come back in, which would be a little bit harsh on Diop because he had a fantastic game last week, but he had been struggling before that. There is always the option that they go three at the back, but I don't think they will. I think Moyes is pretty ruthless when it comes to that, and I think Zuma will just come back in and partner with Dawson. Obviously, Angelo Ogbonna is out for the season. Arthur Masuaku is another one who won't be playing for a little while. The potential having an operation, but other than that, it's a fully fit squad for West Ham, as far as I know. So we haven't had the press conference. We'll have that this afternoon. But David Moyes is he very rarely gives anything away. It was actually quite a surprise a couple of weeks ago when he spoke about Lanzini had a little bit of an Achilles injury and he was on the bench against Watford, and then you find out a few hours later was then when the Zuma incident came out. It's like, oh, okay, maybe put two and two together, and maybe he's given us a little bit more to try and move us away from that, which obviously wasn't going to happen. But no, pretty much a fully fit squad. And
how will the game end? Will West Ham get the better of Newcastle, do you think?
I think it'll be close. I think it'll either be 1-1 or a 2-1 home win I'm going for, but I think I'll probably actually stick with the draw.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with the draw as well. I'm much more confident going into this game than I was a few weeks ago, but I think a draw against West Ham, chasing Champions League football, will be a good point for Newcastle and certainly help them in their fight for survival.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think for Newcastle, a draw, away in what will be tough conditions. Their travel plans might change. Honestly, I wouldn't want to be flying out there right now. So, maybe travel plans will change. Champions League chasing side, team in 5th place away from home. I think a draw would be a very good result for Newcastle. I think West Ham will be a little bit disappointed purely because of what's coming up for them. They'll look at this and think, Moyes always has his targets. And, personally looking at the next 5, I think, well, you need to get the win here.
Well, fingers crossed they don't get the win and Newcastle do. And anyone watching this, listening to this, travelling down from Tyneside to London, safe travels, as Tom mentioned there. It's a little bit windy outside and fingers crossed you get there safely. Do stay safe. Please remember to like and follow the podcast through your podcast provider. And if you're on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. And head over to chroniclelive.co.uk where we'll bring you all the latest Newcastle United news, including what Eddie Howe had to say in his press conference today and what David Moyes will say later on after he's spoken to Tom and his colleagues. What time is that about?
1:30 here.
1:30 there. So keep an eye out for that and enjoy your weekend.